Alright, so I wanted to make a quick video explaining the roots of the Republican ideals in the U.S. Constitution, and I figured scratch away some here and there, I guess. And I figured that I'd just make a quick video about it. So I hear a lot of people say that Christianity is the origin of these Republic ideals, of the ideals behind our great Constitution, but that doesn't really make too much sense when you actually look at the facts of where the ideas of modern republicanism come from. So Machiavelli is the founder of republicanism. Academia has long established this fact. He got his ideas from Plato's Republic, so we can establish that the Republican ideals, the idea of the tripartite state, come from the Greeks. So here in the United States, we have the three different subsets of society that would be classified as a republic working together. You have the principality, which would be the president. You have the aristocracy, which would be the Congress. You also have the democracy, which would be the people. People do have rights. The people do have the right to vote. This is democratic portion of the republic, of the idea of a republic. All right. When I talk about a republic, notice that I'm not referring to the states and all their different things. That's what makes it a federation. A federation is a group of different entities that are federated together into one entity, one alliance, one coalition. So that's where the idea of a federation comes from, not from the idea, or that's where our states are. That's where the idea of a federation comes from. Sorry, this is just a quick video, just off the top of my head. The idea of a federation comes from federating, not. It has nothing to do with whether the type of government is a principality, aristocracy, or democracy. Our government is not a true democracy, a pure democracy, nor should it be. That would be anarchic. It would lead to anarchy because the people cannot be trusted to control all functions of society. Just as a prince would eventually become a tyrant, a group of aristocrats would eventually become an oligarchy, a democracy would eventually become an anarchy, probably very quickly. We can see this in how quickly the Athenian, and this is the point that Machiavelli made, how quickly the Athenian democracy degenerated into anarchy. So the idea of a republic is pagan in origin, and it's definitely a way better form of government, at least for our people, than any other form of government. No other form of government has led to as stable and successful as a society and for European peoples as has a republic. Yes, there were some exceptions. Yes, there were some exceptions to republics in ancient Europe, but for the most part, this separation of powers has been commonplace throughout most of Europe. You can see this again. I mean, even in the Scandinavian and Germanic tribes, they had their jarls, their earls, and such. They had their things where all men were allowed to vote. They had a judicial system with judges and whatnot. So we can see that they had separation of powers, which is the idea of a republic. The idea behind the republic, separating the powers, giving them to different groups. We can see that this practice was fairly widespread across Europe. You can't have, how are you going to have free, strong men who aren't able to have any say in their own lives? That being said, wouldn't free, strong men naturally want a leader, somebody to take care of specific functions, and would they also want to have other lesser leaders who are primed to take care of even more specific functions. So basically the point I'm getting at is that a republic is a continuation of pagan ideals in modern society. Well, what about all the constant references to Jesus, God, in the early American founding fathers' writings? Well, even Machiavelli espoused the idea of using religious practices. In his book, The Prince, he talked about using religious practices in order to assuage and convince the people. He talked about how a Roman general, in order to convince the people to go to war, rigged the religious ritual that they had in order to decide whether they would go to war or not, to be in his favor. So he doesn't really. So this founder of modern republicanism, the founder of the modern Republican ideals, which are a continuation of the ancient Republican ideals, but they are modernized. They've been changed through the ages. Not, in spirit, but just in nuances and semantics. Well, look at my fucking beard that I wore out. Alright. So, yeah, you're hearing about paganism and how it's the foundation of the modern American society from a guy who looks like Jesus. So, furthermore, you know what? Actually, that might be it for now. Alright, so while I will say that, for the most part, these ideals have been followed, even though to, varying degrees and varying extents in European society. The Geats, for example, during Bronze Age Scandinavian history, they tended to be more towards the principality side of things. The Romans were more towards the aristocracy side of things. This idea of the separation of powers is very, very clearly European in origin. It's not Middle Eastern, it's not Far Eastern, it's not African. They all tend to draw their power from a single source instead of the whole group. Middle Easterners, strong theocratic society. Far Easterners, the noble patriarch heading his country against any and all storms that it may come across. Whatever. Anyways, the point is, our country, this great, amazing country of ours, Murica, it is it's pagan in origin. It's a continuation of pagan ideals, and these pagan ideals are part of the reason why our country is so damn great, because if we followed Christian ideals, if we were just another Hebrew society, we would probably live a lot like the Hebrews and be fucking kicked around everywhere we goddamn go. So, I guess that's my point. They can live how they want to, that's on them, but I'm a white man. I'll live as I please. Murica. Yee-yee.